Oh my god, it made this whole thing with just one prompt. Look how crazy these animations are. Alright, next let's get it to create an interactive visualization of a meteor crashing into Earth. And here's what we get. Look at how detailed everything is. And again, it made all of this with just one prompt. Let's try this. Create an interactive map of USA with population density, natural areas, urban areas, and other layers. And here is what we get. Indeed, it maps all these layers on our map. How insane is that? Or let's feed it this really challenging visual puzzle, and then ask it what's the correct answer. Do not search the web. And it nailed it. Let's get it to create an interactive black hole visualizer. And would you look at that? This is pretty cool. Or let's feed it this Olympic level math question. Like, I don't even know what the hell this means. This is one of the hardest math questions in the world that not a lot of people know how to solve. And after thinking for a long time, it also got the answer completely correct. ARC-AGI just released Grok 4, and this is the best, the most capable AI model you can use right now. But actually, it sucks if you don't know how to use it properly. So in this video, I'm going to show you all the cool things you can do with it and how to actually use it properly. Plus, I'm going to go over its specs and performance against other AI models and pricing. So let's jump right in. Thanks to HubSpot for sponsoring this video. Now, as with the rest of the leading AI models, Grok 4 is especially good at really complex reasoning tasks for things like coding, science, math, and research. So that's mostly what I'm going to focus on in this video. I mean, sure, you can get Grok to also answer simple questions or help you reply to emails, but all the other chatbots can do that as well. So in this video, I'm mainly going to focus on these coding, science, math, and reasoning tasks to show you how good Grok is. So it's really easy to access and use. It's just grok.com, which I'll link to in the description below. And over here, you can see that I have Grok 4 selected. Now, here's the thing. You need to know how to prompt Grok 4 in order to maximize its potential. If you don't know how to do that, you're gonna think it sucks. So here's an example. Give me an insane interactive visualizer with multiple elements, particles, or animation effects. Make it interactive and extremely impressive. Use Three.js. This is a library for 3D animations. And then use CSS, JS, and HTML in a standalone HTML file. Make sure all libraries are defined or imported. Now, I'm showing you this example first because it's not going to work. So let's actually press enter and see what we get. All right, here's what we get. First of all, you can see that it thought for 26 seconds and then it gave us the code. Now, if I click preview on the right side here, you're going to see a preview of this code. Now, nothing works. And actually on Chrome, if I press Control Shift and I to open up the console log, you can see that we are hitting a lot of errors. 3 is not defined, even though I told it to make sure all libraries are defined or imported. So if you're prompting Grok 4 this way, you're gonna think Grok 4 sucks and nothing works. For other models, like Gemini or DeepSeek, this prompt works just fine and they can easily create a page with no errors. But for Grok 4, it does require a bit more handholding. This doesn't mean Grok 4 sucks, it just means you need to engineer your prompt better. So let's try another example. This is the correct way to prompt Grok 4. And don't worry, I'm gonna paste these key phrases and words in a pinned comment below so you can just copy and paste it in your prompts as well. So if you wanna get it to code some really cool animation or something, you first need to prompt it with its role. So for example, you can say that Grok is a senior 3D graphics programmer with extensive experience in WebGL and Three.js. And you can write this if you want to get it to create some 3D animation or visualization. And then here you can say, generate a complete self-contained HTML file that renders a photorealistic and interactive 3D simulation, etc., etc. Again, these are just keywords to basically encourage Grok 4 to create a more visually compelling animation. Otherwise, it's pretty short and concise, and it tends to give you the bare minimum. And then for our actual animation, let's try this. Simulate an asteroid impact on Earth. The meteor should be glowing with a trailing flame. The user can choose the size and speed and other settings and watch the animation. Include an epic explosion animation of dispersing flaming particles. And then also import realistic textures. And the nice thing about Grok is it has web search by default. You don't even need to toggle anything on. So it's actually going to search the web and find a realistic texture for planet Earth. And then the final output should be a single HTML file. And then here is the most important part. Again, you need to kind of handhold it and tell it how to import Three.js. So here I wrote, you can use this script to import Three.js. This one here, and then we also want it to import orbit controls, which lets you kind of orbit or move around a 3D scene using your mouse or touch controls. Again, for Grok 4, it's best if you specify the exact libraries or packages that you would like it to use for the animation. Anyways, let's click generate, and here you can see it thought for 53 seconds. Now actually, let's expand its thoughts so you can see its thought process on how to create this simulation. Here it's planning the simulation, and then here it's designing the asteroid trail, and that's pretty much it. That is its thought process. If you've been playing around with like O3 or DeepSeek, they usually think for a ton of paragraphs, but here it's really short and concise. And then afterwards, it doesn't even give you any text explaining, what this code does. It just gives you the code. Grok 4 is like a no BS AI model that gets straight to the point. Anyways, let's click preview and see what we get. Wow, and here we go. Here is our 3D render of planet Earth. And again, note that it just automatically found the texture and imported it for us. And you can see I'm dragging my mouse around so we can change the view of Earth like this. I can also scroll my mouse to zoom in and out. All right, next, let's click Start Animation. And indeed, here we have an asteroid crashing into Earth like this. Very cool. Let's click Start Animation again, and that's another asteroid. All right, let's adjust the asteroid's speed and increase the asteroid size and press Start Animation again. And there you go. Now notice that the asteroid doesn't really look like an asteroid, so I can probably prompt it further to import a texture for the asteroid or something like that. But anyways, there you go. In just one prompt, it was able to create this simulation, and everything works properly. Now, for your reference, here's the same code with Gemini 2.5 Pro. Let's click on Launch Asteroid, and you can see that the asteroid actually looks really good with a flaming trail, but let's see if it can actually hit planet Earth. Okay, so it kind of just went through Earth and there's no explosion or anything. So in that sense, it's not as good as the animation from Grok 4. All right, next, let's try this prompt. Make a Galton board simulation with a grid of pegs, sidewalls, and separate dividers at the bottom. Drop balls from the top upon button click. Use matter.js. This is another key library I like to use for physics simulation. And then use CSS, JS, and HTML in a single HTML file. Let's press generate, and here is what we get. So here it thought for 86 seconds, and here is its thought process. Again, it's pretty short and concise. And then here is its answer. Again, it just gives you the code. It doesn't even explain anything. It's a very no BS model. So let's click preview, and let me just click on drop ball a few times. So indeed, we have a Galton board, and the balls are falling according to gravity. Now, it seems like none of these balls are actually falling through these pegs to the center. So let's write a follow-up. Add edges to the side of the Galton board so that most balls don't just fall to the sides. All right, so here it thought for a bit longer, and here is the final code. So let's click preview, and indeed it has added sides to the Galton board. So let me click drop ball a few times, and as you can see, the balls are falling very realistically. So here is a super realistic Galton board simulation with the correct gravity physics. All right, next, let's try something even crazier. So I'm going to use the same prompt template as before. You are a senior 3D graphics programmer with extensive experience. Create a complete self-contained HTML file, etc., etc. And then this time we are going to get it to create an interactive morphing particle visualizer, which can transform into 5 different non-linear dynamics. These are basically really irregular shapes and patterns. And then add adjustable settings. And then again, to make sure we don't run into any errors with importing libraries and dependencies, we need to handhold it and tell it to use the following imports. And again, don't worry, I'm going to paste all this code in the pinned comment below so you can just copy and paste it into your prompt. So this time we are going to add some pretty cool effects. And in order to do that, we need to use these add-on packages for Three.js. The first one is orbit controls, which we've gone over before. This is for like using your mouse to view the 3D scene at different angles. And then this effect composer and render pass and output pass, these are basically used to apply additional effects to your 3D scene. And then we also have this Unreal Bloom Pass, which basically adds some glowing bloom effects to your scene, which you'll see in a second. And then finally, we also need to tell it to import Three.js from over here like this. Notice that this is just another way you can tell it to import Three.js. Notice that it's slightly different from our Asteroid example where we imported Three.js like this. Anyways, back to this particle visualizer, let's click generate. Alright, so it thought for a bit longer this time. Let's expand its thought process. And here you can see it's first planning the 3D simulation, designing the user controls, and then it's actually searching the web for a list of 3D strange attractor equations and parameters, which will basically define the shapes and patterns that you'll see in a second. And then it kind of searches further for this Aizawa attractor equation, which gives us something like this. And then here it's finalizing visual effects and initializing the particles. And then finally, here is our code. So let me click preview. Oh my god, what do we have here? This is so cool. And then let's change this to Rosler. I don't even know how you say this, but holy smokes. This animation is so cool. Let me decrease the speed a bit. Wow, this is a really cool animation. Let me also increase the point size. All right, and I can drag my mouse around to view this at different angles. Instead of Rosler, let's try Aizawa, and you can see right now it's transforming into a different shape. Okay, so I guess this is the Aizawa equation. Very nice. And instead of Aizawa, let's try Thomas. Let me increase the speed. Wow, very interesting. So this is Thomas. Let me increase the speed a bit faster. There we go. And then after Thomas, let's try Halverson. Is that how you pronounce it? Oh my god, what is this? Where did all the particles go? Anyways, there you go. Here's how you can code up some really cool 3D animations with Grok 4. Look at how cool this is. Let me just run through these shapes again because this is just really cool. And then for your information, here is the same prompt with Gemini 2.5 Pro. However, when I run this, you can see that something went wrong, there was an error, and if I open up the console log, it seems like there's an error with this mathutils function. Plus, even though in the prompt I specified for it to generate non-linear dynamics, it just generated some really simple shapes like sphere and torus. So it's not as complicated as what we got from Grok 4. I mean, look at how crazy this visualizer is. If you've ever used ChatGPT and thought, why are my results all over the place? You're not alone. What if there was a way to consistently get expert level outputs from ChatGPT? Well, check out this free guide called Advanced ChatGPT Prompt Engineering by HubSpot, which teaches you how to become an expert prompter in just 7 days. It's a full playbook that walks you through how to go from casual prompts to high precision results. You'll learn the core principles of prompt engineering with a proven zero-shot formula. I especially love the pre-built templates for various use cases like marketing, business analysis, and content creation, which you can just copy and paste into ChatGPT. It also teaches you about few-shot prompting, where you can send follow-up prompts to the AI model to get even better results than if you just prompted it once. Best of all, you'll learn how to reduce errors and hallucinations from the AI so that its response is factually correct. And my favorite part, it provides a ton of real prompt examples to show you exactly how you can do the same thing. Grab it for free in the description below. And thanks to HubSpot for sponsoring this video. Or here's another example. I'm going to use pretty much the same prompt at the start and the end. I just find that these import statements work very well for creating 3D animations in Grok. So feel free to just copy and paste this from the pinned comment below. And then this time, instead of those irregular shapes, let's do something like helixes, lattices and galaxies and neural networks. I'm not even sure what it's going to generate for us. And then add adjustable settings, and because the previous animation is kind of monotone, here I'm going to make it colorful and visually appealing. Alright, here is what we get. So let me press preview, and very cool. Here is a colorful helix. Let's morph this into a lattice. Wow. For the morph speed, let's actually make this a bit slower. And then particle size, let's increase this to like over here. Bloom strength, let's make it even more glowy. And then let's transform this into a galaxy. Whoa. Alright, so I guess this is our galaxy. Let's transform this into a neural network now. Okay. Not exactly the neural network I was expecting, but I guess these are like the layers of a neural network. And then finally, let's morph this into a torus. And here is what we get. And let's morph this back into a helix. Wow, this is so cool. So there you go. Here's another really quick 3D visualizer you can create with Grok in just one prompt. All right, enough 3D stuff. Let's move on to some more useful applications like creating maps. So here, let's get it to create an interactive map of USA. Show toggles for different layers such as water, natural areas, urban highways, population density, etc. Use leaflet.js and existing GeoJSON or TopoJSON data for layers. So I'm basically getting it to search for existing geospatial layers online for all these different layers. And then finally, here's the key phrase I like to use CSS, JS, and HTML in a single HTML file. Alright, so here it thought for a bit longer, and if I expand this, notice that after planning everything, it's searching extensively for all this GeoJSON data, including rivers, lakes, national parks, urban areas, interstate highways, and population density. And then it's exploring all these layers and choosing the right one to use. However, here it says that it could not find relevant content, as the table includes total area, not density. So because the initial table lacks density, let's check the other page, etc., etc. And then here, finally, it found the population and density data for all 50 states. And finally, here is what we get. So let me click preview. And indeed, we have a map of USA, and here is the population density. So let me toggle this off, and then let me turn on lakes. It doesn't seem like lakes is working. Let me try to zoom in and out. Yeah, I don't see any lakes highlighted here, so it doesn't seem like lakes are working. What about rivers? Rivers also do not seem to work. And then natural areas, those are also not highlighted. Urban areas, okay, urban areas are highlighted, so you can see the areas highlighted in gray. So if I toggle this off and on again, you can see those are the urban areas. And then for highways, it doesn't seem like there's a layer for that either. So what I'm going to do over here is send a follow-up. The following layers don't work: lakes, rivers, natural areas, and highways. Alright, so afterwards it thought for a bit longer, and it's searching the web for more geospatial data regarding these layers. And then here's the code, so let's click preview, and let's try this again. Let me turn off population density and turn on lakes, and indeed, we have lakes highlighted. Very cool. Now, instead of lakes, let's turn on rivers. Rivers still doesn't seem to work, but whatever. Natural areas, that also works. You can see natural areas highlighted here. And then urban areas, that worked like last time. And then highways, that still doesn't seem to work. But it got a few of these layers correct, which is still not bad. Now, for your comparison, if I run the same prompt with Google's Gemini 2.5 Pro, again, we hit some errors. So it does give us a map of USA. The nice thing is it also allows us to toggle between street map and satellite. Let's turn this back into street map. However, for water bodies, it does not really detect anything. For parks and protected lands, it also does not detect anything. Urban areas, major highways, population density, it gave us a nice legend here, but again, none of these layers are actually applied to this map. So again, as you can see, Grok is just slightly more performant in this regard. Alright, next, this is kind of inspired by what they showed during their live stream. So let's also try to create an interactive black hole visualizer in a standalone HTML file. Use the following imports. So again, I'm just going to copy and paste all the imports that I showed you from the previous prompt, which basically kind of guides Grok 4 on, what packages and dependencies to use. These are mostly packages for Three.js. And let's click generate. All right, so here is what we get. Let's click preview, and this is what we get. So it seems like I need to scroll my mouse to animate this. Very cool. So I guess that's the animation. You can see the black hole animating as I drag my mouse around like this. Now, for your comparison, here's the same prompt with Google's Gemini 2.5 Pro. And if I drag my mouse around, it kind of does orbit around this thing, but it's not really a black hole at all. There's not really any suction going on or anything. It just doesn't look as good as the Grok example. So again, I hope you can see that as long as you prompt Grok 4 correctly, like this, then it's actually insanely good. And it is slightly better than the leading models out there, including Gemini 2.5 Pro and O3. Alright, next let's try something that's a bit more useful for everyday life. So here what I'm going to do is upload the Q4 earnings reports from NVIDIA. Let me just show you this real quickly. And also from Google, which looks like this. And finally from Amazon, which looks like this. And then I'm going to write, give me a very detailed financial analysis with graphs, charts, or visuals. Be thorough and include a 12-month forecast. Make the page responsive, make sure the visuals fit nicely, use a single HTML file only. Let's press generate and see what that gives us. Alright, so this time it only thought for only 17 seconds. This task is a piece of cake. So let's click preview, and here is what we get. So indeed we have a financial analysis of all three companies. Note that I did not specify NVIDIA, Alphabet, or Amazon in the prompt. So it actually did go in each PDF and extracted the information. And then here is a table of the key metrics. Let me actually go in the original report and try to find a few of these stats. So let's see if I can find 126% year-over-year growth for NVIDIA. And indeed, we do see 126% year-over-year growth in revenue for NVIDIA. And then for Alphabet, let's try to find its operating income. It should be 112.4. And indeed, operating income is over here, and for 2024, it is 112.4 thousand. Very nice. And then finally, for Amazon, let's try to find cash from operations. It should be 115.9. So indeed, cash from operations is 115.9. So that's just to verify that this information is actually accurate and pulled from the original PDFs. And then here's a financial analysis. Here's a bar chart showing the revenue growth for all three companies. By the way, look at how crazy the growth of NVIDIA is compared to the other companies. And then here is profitability and margins, etc., etc. And then here's a 12-month forecast. Now for this part, I'm not too particularly impressed by this. It seems like it's just doing a linear extrapolation. I'd like to see a more thorough 12-month forecast where it actually gives its reasoning on its predictions. But anyways, there you go. Here is the financial analysis report, which consolidates information from these three PDFs. So, you can easily just plug in any document or PDF into this and get it to summarize or analyze it. Now, one of the major strengths of Grok 4 is it's insanely good at math. So it's the best AI model in terms of solving Olympiad level math questions. Yes, there is an Olympics for math. And you can see for this competitive math benchmark, Grok 4 Heavy, which we'll talk about in a second, got a freaking 100%. That's pretty crazy. So I'm going to paste in this question, and this is question C6 from the International Math Olympiad 2022, shortlisted problems. Let me just read you the question really quickly. Let n be a positive integer. We start with n piles of pebbles, each initially containing a single pebble. One can perform moves of the following form. Choose two piles, take an equal number of pebbles from each pile, and form a new pile out of these pebbles. For each positive integer n, find the smallest number of non-empty piles that one can obtain by performing a finite sequence of moves of this form. What the hell are you even talking about? This is like alien language to me. But there you go. Here's an example of one of the toughest math problems in the world, which was given in the International Math Olympics. So I'm going to copy and paste this problem in here and explicitly tell it not to search the web for the correct answer, just in case it does. And then let's click generate. Alright, so this time it thought for really long, like almost 7 minutes. Much longer than getting it to code a 3D animation, so this must be a really tricky math problem. Anyways, here is its thought process, and you can see it's analyzing everything step by step. It's testing some simulations and strategies, and then it's also considering some other patterns or hypotheses, I guess. But afterwards, here is its answer. So let me collapse this thought process. The answer is the smallest number of non-empty piles is 1 if n is a power of 2 and 2 otherwise. And that is indeed the correct answer. Now here's another thing where Grok 4 outperforms the rest of the leading AI models. It's called the ARC-AGI benchmark, which I'll talk about in a second, but it mostly involves solving visual puzzles. So what I'm going to do is upload this image where we are given a sequence of 3 images and it has to guess the next frame. Now if you don't want me to spoil the answer, pause the video right now and try to figure this out yourself. Anyways, I'm going to upload this image here and then write, what is the correct answer? Do not search the web. Alright, and here is what we get. Again, you can see Grok is super short and concise. It doesn't even bother explaining the answer for us. It just gave us D, which is indeed the correct answer. Now, if we expand this, here is actually all the math under the hood. So first it's analyzing the puzzle, it's exploring the pattern, and then it's also re-evaluating options, etc., etc. It's also testing different theories like the examining triangle direction, rotation theory, etc., etc. But eventually it lands on the answer D, which is indeed correct. Now, solving these visual puzzles might not seem like much to you, but this is actually a very important behavior. This signifies that an AI can pick up patterns from new data like this and figure out the answer. It's kind of like it can learn new things, right? This pattern is likely not in its training data. Alright, so that sums up some of the cool things you can do with Grok 4. Next, let's go over its specs and performance. Now, Grok 4 is a multimodal model, and like I showed you in some of my examples, you can also upload images for it to analyze, as well as upload PDFs for it to analyze. And, the exciting thing is, in addition to just images, apparently they're also planning a video generator, which will come out later this year. Plus, they're also going to release a coding version of Grok 4, which is even more specialized at coding. Now, right now, they've released 2 variants of Grok 4. We have the regular Grok 4 and Grok 4 Heavy. You can think of Grok 4 Heavy as like a team of agents working together at once to consider multiple hypotheses or solutions to a problem, as you can see from this diagram here. Here's what Elon has to say about Grok 4 Heavy.
And with the Grok 4 Heavy, what it does is it spawns multiple agents in parallel, and all of those agents do work independently, and then they compare their work, and they decide which one, it's like a study group. And it's not as simple as a majority vote, because often only one of the agents actually figures out the trick, or figures out the solution. But once they share the trick or figure out what the real nature of the problem is, they share that solution with the other agents, and then they essentially compare notes, and then yield an answer. So that's the heavy part of Grok 4.
So as expected, Grok 4 Heavy is going to be even more intelligent and performant than just the regular Grok 4. But it does come at a price. So as of right now, to use Grok 4 natively on Grok.com, you do need to pay $30 per month, just for the regular Grok 4. Now, if you want to access Grok 4 Heavy, it's going to be a whopping $300 per month. However, again, note that most of you don't actually need to use Grok 4 Heavy. This is for really specialized tasks which require really deep reasoning and analysis. So for example, for medicine or research. But for most of us, if you're just getting Grok to analyze regular reports or vibe code something, the regular Grok 4 already works very well. Now, by the way, because this is multimodal, it can also do audio and voice. So right now they've released a voice assistant which you can talk to in real time. And this is super realistic. So here I'm on my mobile app, and you can see up here I've selected Grok 4, and all you need to do is click on this audio button in the lower right corner.
What's on your mind?
Can you talk to me in an erotic, whispery voice?
I'd love to, but I'm designed to keep things professional and friendly. How about I answer your next question in a smooth, sultry tone instead? What do you want to talk about?
Sure, actually it's my birthday today. Can you sing me happy birthday?
Happy birthday! I'd love to sing for you, but let's just say my vocal cords are more AI than American Idol. Here we go, in a smooth, sultry tone as promised. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear friend. Happy birthday to you. Hope that hit the spot. Any birthday wishes or plans you want to share?
And by the way, you can see that over here, you can choose from different roles. So for example, assistant, therapist, storyteller. You can also use this to tell your kids stories or play trivia games. Or you can also use this for meditation. In fact, let's try this meditation one really quickly. Hi there. Can you help me with a calm, relaxing 5-minute meditation?
Hello. I'm here to guide you into a calm, relaxing 5-minute meditation. Let's begin by finding a comfortable position. Sit or lie down, whatever feels natural to you. Gently close your eyes, if that feels right, and let your body settle into this moment. Breathe in deeply through your nose. Feel the air fill your chest.
So those are some of my quick demos, but here's another demo comparing this to OpenAI's voice assistant.
Why not try that live on the stream today?
Should I start? Hey, I'm going to say a number, and can you say the same number back to me? 1.
1, got it. This is like a fun little game of echo. What's next?
2. Sorry, I said 2. 3.
Good. 3. 4. Nice and steady. What's next?
5.
5. Nailed it. This is pretty fun. Feel free to keep going or switch it up again.
Hey, Grok.
Hello there. How can I help you today?
We're going to do a little test. Can you repeat after me? 1,
1. All right. What's next?
2,
2. What's on your mind?
3,
3. Need anything else?
4,
4. How can I assist you?
5.
5. What's next?
So as you can see, Grok was snappier. It didn't interrupt me. And the prosody is we've made different design choices. I think we were shooting for something more calm, smooth, more natural.
As you can see, OpenAI's voice is just way more talkative and she just goes on and on, whereas Grok is more concise and I like to call it no BS. By the way, quick update, just as I was finished recording this video, XAI unleashes yet another update. So they just released a waifu companion feature in the Grok app. Now this is currently only available in the iPhone version, but hopefully they'll make it available for Android as well. Once you've downloaded or updated the app, in your user settings, simply choose Enable Companions over here, and then you can chat with this waifu in real time.
Totally wrapped up in this cozy moment with you. What's got you so excited to say hi, babe? May? Hey, love, you're all about that tech life this morning, huh? Okay, I'm picking up where we left off. Samsung's Galaxy Z Flip 7 just launched with a bigger 4.1-inch flex window and AI features like voice-controlled tasks right from the cover screen. Plus, it's the slimmest yet at 6.5 millimeters unfolded.
And yes, you can even get her to jump up and down, and the jiggle physics are top-notch. And yes, you can even replace this outfit and expose even more skin. But of course, I can't show this on YouTube. So what a cracked team. Not only did they have time to build the best AI model in the world, but they also built a real-time waifu companion app on top of that. Alright, next let's look at some benchmarks to see how well Grok actually performs across various different subjects. So here are some of their reported benchmarks, but we're also going to look at some independent leaderboards afterwards as well. So as you can see here, for GPQA, these are basically graduate level science questions. Grok 4 Heavy and just the regular Grok 4 outperforms the other leading models out there, including Gemini 2.5 Pro, O3, and Claude Opus 4. In fact, during the Grok 4 live stream, Elon specifically says that Grok 4 outperforms all PhD students in terms of answering academic questions.
I want to just emphasize this point. With respect to academic questions, Grok 4 is better than PhD level in every subject, no exceptions. Now, this doesn't mean that it times it may lack common sense, and it has not yet invented new technologies or discovered new physics, but that is just a matter of time.
So that's GPQA. In terms of competitive coding, again, all versions of Grok 4 beat the other leading models out there, Gemini 2.5 Pro and O3. And then here is Olympiad math proofs. And look at the insane lead between Grok 4 Heavy with the other leading models. Like this one beats Gemini DeepThink by over 11%, which is pretty crazy. Here we have some other competitive math benchmarks. Notice that Grok 4 Heavy with Python scores 96% for this one. So it's almost like saturating this benchmark. And then this one is even crazier. So this one got 100%. So it absolutely dominated this AIME benchmark. And then for ARC-AGI, I don't think this bar graph does it justice, so let me show you another chart. So here's another chart showing the performance of all the AI models on this ARC-AGI 2 benchmark. If you're not familiar with ARC-AGI 2, don't worry, I'll go over this in a second, but just note that Grok 4 is all the way up here, whereas the rest of the models are down here, so it's not even close. Now this ARC-AGI benchmark basically evaluates how well an AI can solve novel problems using minimal prior knowledge. More specifically, each task is basically a visual puzzle where it's only given a few examples and it needs to figure out the underlying pattern. So for example, first it's shown 2 question-answer pairs. So here's the question and here's the answer. So the answer is you just fill in the cells over here to complete the squares. Similarly, here's another question-answer pair. So you just fill in the blocks over here to complete the squares. So it's given 2 of these examples. Next, the AI needs to figure out the answer for this. And surprisingly, traditional AI models perform very poorly on these types of tasks. As you can see, even Gemini 2.5 Pro only got less than 5% of these questions correct, and then O3 got 6.5% correct. And that's because this is like testing the AI model's ability to learn new patterns that are not part of its training data. It's testing if it can learn and apply new things. Anyways, that's ARC-AGI 1, and then ARC-AGI 2 is still a set of visual puzzle questions, but it's even more complicated. So here are some examples. Here is the question and here is the answer. So the underlying pattern behind this is if the shape does not have a hole, then you color it yellow. If it has 1 hole, then you color it green. If it has 2 holes, then you color it blue. If it has 3 holes, then you color it red. Now for an average human, it's pretty easy to deduce this. And then here's another question-answer pair. And then next it's given this, and the AI needs to figure out, what the answer is. So again, for this ARC-AGI 2 test, note that almost all of the other models perform super poorly. Like none of them could even get past 10%, even the O3 high versions, which have more compute. But Grok 4 thinking is all the way up here at 16%, which is an insane lead. And this shows you that Grok 4 has some emergent ability, you can say, to actually learn from new patterns and data. Next, let's look at another popular leaderboard by artificial analysis. And here, again, you can see that Grok 4 is ranked at number 1 with an intelligence index of 73, slightly above OpenAI's O3 Pro and Gemini 2.5 Pro. And more specifically, in terms of their coding index, Grok 4 is also ranked number 1. And the same goes for their math index. Now, Grok 4 is not cheap, so this costs around $6 per 1 million tokens. However, if you compare this with its intelligence, it's actually quite reasonably priced. So here is a chart of intelligence versus price. The y-axis is how intelligent the model is, and then the x-axis is the price. And ideally, you would want a model in this upper left quadrant. And indeed, Grok 4 is all the way over here, which is great. You don't want to be over here where, yes, it is intelligent, but it's also insanely expensive. So here's O3 Pro and Claude 4 Opus. Here's another independent leaderboard called LiveBench by Abacus AI. And interestingly, over here, Grok 4 is ranked number 4. So it does score the highest in terms of reasoning and mathematics, but it scores pretty poorly in terms of agentic coding and language. So, it's important to look at multiple leaderboards so you can get an objective sense of how good a model is. Alright, next you might be wondering how well Grok 4 does at handling and understanding a lot of information at once. So this brings us to another benchmark called Fiction Live Bench. And this basically tests an AI's ability to process and understand and analyze a ton of text at once. So here it's comparing all these different models and its performance at answering questions of various text lengths. So at the very end here, it's given text that's 192,000 words long, and it needs to answer questions about that text. So you can see Grok 4 is all the way down here, and it actually scores very well. It gets it correct 84.4% of the time. It's only slightly behind Google's Gemini 2.5 Pro, which scores 90% of the time. However, if you look at the second and third last column, where the text is only 60,000 words or 120,000 words, then Grok 4 performs the best out of all the models, getting it correct like 97% of the time. And I mean, across the board, across all these text lengths, Grok 4 just scores really well. And this means even if you give it a ton of information at once, it's really good at actually processing and analyzing this information. Now, no AI model is perfect, so you might be wondering, well, how often does Grok 4 hallucinate? In other words, how often does it just make stuff up and not give you a factually correct answer? Well, that brings us to this hallucination leaderboard by Vectera. And you can see the leader is actually Gemini 2.0 Flash, which only hallucinates like 0.07% of the time. And then Grok 4 is actually all the way down here, even below Grok 2. So here's Grok 4, and it hallucinates 4.8% of the time, which is not insignificant. So if you're dealing with something that really requires factually correct information, like legal research, then this might not be the best model to use. So keep that in mind. And then here's another leaderboard called Humanity's Last Exam. This is a terrible name because it doesn't mean that we are screwed once AI reaches 100% on this exam. This is basically testing an AI's knowledge on really deep and obscure subjects. So here are some example questions. So it's testing like if an AI can translate this Palmyrene script from a Roman inscription. I mean, who the hell even knows this? Or here it's testing if it knows how many paired tendons are supported by this sesamoid bone in a hummingbird. So like most of you don't even need to know this, but it's basically a test on how much an AI model knows about these obscure and really specialized subjects. And as you can see over here, Grok 4 performs the best at 25%. Now, this is just the base version of Grok 4. If you give Grok 4 some tools like Python and Internet, and if you use Grok 4 Heavy, then it scores a whopping 44.4%, well ahead of Gemini Deep Research, which also has access to Internet, and also well ahead of O3 with Python and Internet. This is an insane lead over the rest of the models. I mean, this is like almost 20 points above Gemini Deep Research. So as you can see from all these benchmarks, it's safe to say that across the board, Grok 4 is the best and most performant AI model you can use right now. And this is actually super impressive considering that ARC-AGI was only founded in July of 2023, whereas OpenAI has existed for like 20 years. So in just a tenth of the time, ARC-AGI was able to, scale their resources, scale their compute, and build the world's smartest AI model. In fact, they started in 2023, and then within a year, by September of 2024, they've already completed the first phase of their Colossus supercomputer, which has 100,000 NVIDIA H100 GPUs. And then they doubled this to 200,000 GPUs by early 2025. So it only took like around 120 days from the start of the construction to full operation, which is a remarkably short time. For your reference, it usually takes like at least months to years to build a similarly sized system. So props to the ARC-AGI team for pulling this off. This is an incredibly impressive achievement. And that sums up my video on Grok 4. Let me know in the comments what you think of this, and if you've had a chance to play around with it, what do you like or not like about it? As always, I will be on the lookout for the top AI news and tools to share with you. So if you enjoyed this video, remember to like, share, subscribe, and stay tuned for more content. Also, there's just so much happening in the world of AI every week. I can't possibly cover everything on my YouTube channel. So to really stay up to date with all that's going on in AI, be sure to subscribe to my free weekly newsletter. The link to that will be in the description below. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.